proposing a low pressure sanitary sewer to connect to the interceptor pipe from Monroe County Pure Waters. I'll take questions at the end. For the reason we chose to go this way is it had an economical upfront capital cost, it had the longest or the lowest long-term maintenance and operation costs, and then obviously by decommissioning the septic systems on your properties, it is going to increase the usable area of your lot, and we feel like it could create future opportunities for development as well. So the project layout, this is a preliminary layout. We haven't done any detailed design for this. It's just a schematic sketch of what we think the sewer will look like. So again, over here in Thompson Drive, head east along the Parkway, pick up the Hamlin Beach State Park along Moscow Road here, and then run down here, and this is where it ties into the Monroe County Pure Waters interceptor pipe. So, if you own a single-family residential property, excluding the trout park facilities, this is what your typical layout would look like. We install a grinder pump about 10 to 20 feet outside your household. A control panel or alarm panel will be mounted either on your house or on a 4x4 post next to the grinder pump. The sewer itself will be an HDPE plastic pipe. The benefit of using HDPE in the low pressure sewer system is you can install it via directional drilling, which significantly reduces the restoration cost, it reduces trenching and backfill costs, and it's a quicker installation as well. The grinder pump itself is shown here. It's about 3 feet in diameter, 7.5 feet deep. On a typical residential property, all you're going to see here is this green lid. This outside unit here, that will remain in the ground at all times. If there's ever an issue with the grinder pump itself, the only thing that needs to be done is they have maintenance personnel come out here and replace this unit. I'll mention that the project includes long-term maintenance costs, so if this grinder pump does fail, that's included in the project. The homeowner doesn't have to pay for that to be replaced or repaired. This is just an image of showing a traditional sanitary gravity sewer installation. You can see, it's a much wider trench that would need to be done. A lot of maintenance, a lot of restoration. Manholes would have to be installed every 400 feet. With shallow bedrock depths, might require rock excavation. So there's a lot of issues that can come up with traditional sanitary sewer, which is why we're going the route that we're going. Project cost again. Total project cost is $15.65 million. 8.6 is a grant from READY. 2.82 would be an IMG grant. Total project cost would be $4.23 million. That would be the remaining cost paid for by the district. Of the $621 a year EDU costs, 408 of that will be to pay for the project cost itself, the construction costs, the engineering costs, the attorney fees, all those costs, the planning. 104 will be the annual maintenance and operation, and 108 will be the disposal costs paid to Monroe County to take care of the disposal fees for accepting your flows. So of that $621 per year for the first 30 years, the entire construction costs are paid for. The operation and maintenance costs are paid for. Your grinder pump replacements are paid for. The abandonment of your septic system and the restoration would be included. The lateral connection from your sewer to the grinder pump is included. All connection fees to Monroe County Pure Waters are included as well. For the homeowner, we're asking the homeowner to install the electric from the homeowner's electric panel to the grinder pump's control panel. And then there's the annual electric costs as well, on top of your debt service costs, as we talked about before. Next steps include formalizing the district, completing detailed engineering and design. Once that's complete, we'll secure all financing, apply for any approvals or permits that are necessary, easements, and then we anticipate completing design and going out to bid towards the end of next year and construction in 2024. So I guess with that, I'll open it up to questions.
So when you say abandonment of septic system, what does that mean?
So on any septic system, you're going to have your distribution tank. So we'll come out there, we'll clean that out, and then we'll fill your, we'll open up your septic, we'll fill it with an inert material, and then we'll provide any restoration. So,
Restoration like to the house or?
restoration, anything that's disturbed,
Okay.
will be restored. Hardscape, we're require the contractors to protect that, but
And that wouldn't include like leach beds and stuff, right?
leach fence,
Leach beds,
Leach
right?
lines.
So if you've got the leach beds, right? Is that a thing?
everything
No, I
would
think
be,
they just want to fill the tank so
The
it doesn't
tanks,
collapse.
Right.
That's, so you're going to take care of that
Just
cost.
a tank.
yes.
It's
So
just
you can
filling that
drive
up.
on it again, you don't have to worry because it's there? No.
No, the leach lines will be fine.
Yes.
You said excluding Troutburg, so is there something different?
So the Troutburg facility is, because we're not installing an individual grinder pump at each resident. So it's unfair to charge each of those residents in Troutburg, because you are all served by a gravity.
You might have to.
Talking cottages at Troutburg?
The cottages?
New people and old people here.
Sorry,
And
but
beach
you're all served by a gravity sewer currently, right?
No,
We're not
no,
septic.
no. You're talking about the new development.
There's two Troutburgs. There's New Troutburg and Kendall, Old Troutburg.
Monroe
in Hamlin.
County, Orleans County.
Most of us are Old Troutburg
Yes.
Yeah.
in Hamlin.
Okay,
The gravity sewer that Howard put
We
in
have nothing.
is in Kendall.
That can go.
right. The Kendall portion, yeah, is served by a gravity sewer. So those are a little bit different. They'll get, they will pay a little bit less because we don't have to install a grinder pump at each of those properties.
So we'll have grinders on ours.
So the Beechwood Park side will have grinders.
Yes.
Okay.
It said on one of the slides, annual dump fees or whatever.
Mhm.
Will they rise as we progress? Because we know everything goes up. So right now,
Right. This is
will
a
that
first
fee
year
jump
cost.
up a little?
So it's probably going to go up some over time.
This is 30 years?
30 years.
And that's a bond to pay for the 5 million, basically.
The disposal cost is something that we don't have any control over. That's done by Monroe
Monroe
County
County doing
Pure
that?
Waters. Yes.
Also, this is a tax that you cannot write off, because I read that because it only serves part of the community and not the whole community, it's something that you can't write off.
I would know, would you?
That's a CPA question, thank you. I agree with
It's
that.
on your tax bill, you can write.
No,
It's on you.
you can't deduct special
Assessment,
This will be on the tax bill?
but some of this can be deducted, some of it can't.
and there's no
But I've
breaks,
never seen anyone make that allocation on the tax.
and there's no breaks for seniors, firefighters.
Not typically not for special
Social
districts.
justice, yeah.
The exemptions don't apply.
How many EDU units are there?
In the total district,
Yeah. Roughly, or
400 and something.
does that include vacant parcels?
Vacant parcels will be charged half an EDU.
Half an EDU. And what about if there's new development coming in later on, some subdivisions, if they
So
add
if they-
tax account numbers?
Right, so if you develop later on and and there's no grinder pump, later on, upfront you'll pay the O&M costs. Later on, if you connect, you'll have to pay for the grinder pump, the lateral and everything at that point by yourself, so.
So you're saying we have to pay the 600 or whatever for 30 years?
For 30 years, yes. And after that 30-year period, the debt service, yep.
Are there going to be lot line cleanouts included in the lateral? So that's a Y connection that's usually added to the lateral line from the house to the connection.
So there's what we call a unilateral connection. Probably clicking back to, not putting it in. Yeah, that would be this unilateral assembly right here.
Okay. And the maintenance personnel, you said that would be the joint commission? The joint district?
That'll be the district is formed. We're still working with the town to determine who's going to be doing that, whether we attempt to share services with Hamlin, whether they hire someone to come out independently, but we've allotted budget for that.
Okay. So not, is Kendall gonna be part of that?
Yeah, so Kendall is really the one leading this. So you just happen to be nearby, so we're trying to provide sewer service to you, so.
Has that been the challenge going over the county lines though? It's not just the town line, it's the county.
Right, yeah, so we do have an intermunicipal agreement between Kendall, the county, and the town of Hamlin. Yeah, which is why we're able to go for the IMG grant.
Okay, so not Orleans County, just the agreement with Monroe County.
Correct. Monroe County primarily because we're discharging to their sewer system.
Right.
So with this,
So you're connecting to the present drain system in the house?
Your present outside the house, we'll make the connection outside the house, but your current sewer lateral outside the house.
Okay.
so with the system you're proposing here, you're not gonna be digging up the entire neighborhood, so to speak. We should have access most of the times to our properties and whatnot.
Yes.
When you're running lines, I get, we might have a little inconvenience, but not big, huge trenches.
Right,
None
right.
of that.
And since this all will be directionally drilled from this entire portion here will be directionally drilled, so there'll be little to, if any, ground disturbance. Obviously, when they install the grinder pump, there'll be a little bit
Right.
more, but it, won't be too bad, honestly.
Yeah.
Was there a question over here, Becky?
Yeah, I think it got cleared up. I was gonna, train one off the trash. Sorry.
If you have, who's gonna handle the discussion on a buildable and a non-buildable lot? Is it non-buildable lot gonna get assessed?
I think if you have a non-buildable lot, bring it to our attention and we'll take a look at it. But I think that will be something that we'll consider. I mean, if it's a non-buildable lot, we can't charge you an EDU for it, right?
That's fine.
Yeah.
Unless they put a pump.
Who's gonna handle that? Who gets the question? You?
Me and the town attorney and the Kendall town attorney.
Okay.
So.
How far away are you from the state cap on the EDUs?
$706 is a comptroller's limit. So, we're exploring a lot of different avenues in order to get where we're at. I'll say that last year, obviously everyone saw a significant increase of material costs, which is why we had to go after the IMG grant, because without it, at one point when I was calculating the cost, we were around $1,200 in EDU. So.
What factors are gonna go into what the force mains look, where they go, and what are they gonna look like?
We're gonna put them in the easiest and cheapest locations to install them.
What do they
So,
look like?
it'll be, depending on the size and where it is, it'll be like a 4-inch pipe that looks like this, 5 feet.
Are they noisy?
Nope, no. So the grinder pump itself is, they say, about as loud as a refrigerator.
How far from the house can it go maximum?
All depends. I mean, a DEC says like up to 20 feet away from the house is their maximum distance,
I guess how close to the house too,
10 feet.
10 feet, okay. What if
You
some of
gotta-
us don't have 10 feet?
We've worked in a lot of scenarios, a lot of tight,
Because some of us actually don't have 10 feet.
yeah. Then we'll do it less than 10 feet. I mean, we'll do what we have to do to make it work, so.
What's the time frame?
So this year we'll be starting the design process. We'll be finalizing that next year as it goes through. There's going to be several approvals that we need, several easements that we need, and we're hoping by the end of next year we're ready to go to bid. I think JP can attest to it that they've been just about done with their design for a while, but it's between easements and permits, it takes quite a bit of time to do the final pieces. So.
So the end of 2023?
Yep,
Start?
that's when we would go out to bid. Yes.
What's the length of time to do it?
Right now, we have 14 months is what we're thinking, but, it depends on how many crews are out there, but it could be longer. I mean, it's 15 miles of sewer. If they can, it might take them they might be able to install 2 grinder pumps per day and you have 300 residences. It's, you know, it's quite a bit of work.
Where's the project gonna start?
I don't know. That's a little bit up to the contractor. I'm guessing that they would go upstream to downstream, but you know, it's a little bit of means and methods for the contractor.
So if you get, you opt out, is it the EDU, what's the price break?
You would have to pay a half an EDU.
So it's half of the 621 or what?
Half of the debt service.
Half of this debt service, so it'd be like a little over 200?
Right.
How much and then if you wanted to opt in, how much does that whole system cost if you wanted to come in at a
Later on, so I think the grinder pumps themselves might cost, I think we budget like $3,800, then you have to do the lateral, and then you have to pay the connection fee to the Monroe County, so significantly more. And then you still have to do some of your inspection and your electrical costs as well. And abandon your septic system.
So you're talking roughly, what, $5,000 or something?
Yeah.
It's probably higher.
Probably, yeah.
By the time you get around
8,
to it.
10.
Yeah, and you're taking care of the long-term O&M on your system. So if that grinder pump fails, you're now responsible for the maintenance of it. I'll go to you. Yep.
You keep referring to Kendall only, does this also include Hamlin?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I've been working primarily with Kendall with this in the last 2 months, so if I refer to Kendall instead of Hamlin, I apologize, so.
Now this 16.2 million is now replaced for the 7.9 million that we were told back in February of 2020 is no longer current.
7.9 was the Hamlin side, ours 2 separate projects. Yes.
But this notice said that we're gonna pay the 6.1
Where do you live?
on the beach.
No.
That's a completely different.
That's a completely different, you're on Hamlin side, yours is not changing from the.
So the 6.1 doesn't affect?
No, not on Wacoma Beach, no. From the pumping station, from where the pumping station is, to Town Line Road or Parma Town Line Road is all of ours. This is not
All these costs
included.
are only for,
Yes, all this talk for the Kendall line and Beechwood.
so there's notice in
It was not the clearest.
the, these pricing, the price of 6.1 is not on the beach.
No, sir, it is not. The price that we have, that you were given a year ago or whatever, is your price.
Who's got a question then?
But it's the same.
This gentleman here with the one arm.
Yeah.
I thought I'm calling you.
So in Troutburg, we have a lot of big old trees and they
Yes.
come crashing down.
Old trout.
During a power outage, how much capacity does the system have?
So it does have capacity. I forget, how much, to be honest with you. But these will be equipped with backup generators in them, or a backup generator connection. So if you have a portable generator, you can connect to it. Typically, we see in terms of, your water usage usually drops in a power outage. Well, usually you don't have hot water. So you can, we just ask you to, conserve your water usage during that time.
No doing laundry during that time?
No doing laundry.
So the cottages, our cottages, a lot of closed in the winter time, it wouldn't affect it.
So in the wintertime, what we ask you to do is fill your bathtub up with water before you leave, and then let it, if you don't have a bathtub, that's fine. But if you do, we would ask you to fill your bathtub up with water, let it drain, that way you're running out some of the wastewater and you just got clean water in your system.
Most of us shut all our water off.
Right.
We
Yeah.
don't want to leave.
So you fill it up, you let it run through, and then you should. Yes.
What's the amp draw of these pumps?
What's that?
The amp draw.
So I don't know what the amp draw is, but I know they come in, I think, 120 and 240 volts or amps, I forget, but there's 2 different models on the pump. So if you only have one type of service, they can go with a different one. We do know that if you go with the 120 and it kicks on, you might see some dimming in your house. So.
Are these on, float controllers? Like, is it like its own little sump and it's a float controller?
Right,
or-
there'll be a float in there, and as it builds up to a certain level,
Okay, do you know roughly the water level depth? You said those are about 7.5 feet.
I don't know what the water level depth is.
Okay.
They said they were 75 gallon capacity.
Yeah. I've looked at a number of different things. I don't have every single answer memorized. So if there's anything I can't answer tonight, just write an email to the town and I can answer it to you.
Somewhere here you mentioned you're pursuing other grant options. What's the realistic of getting one of those? Because I just view an $18,630 bill per household to be ludicrous. So are you realistically going after some other grants or some other way to pay for this?
We're looking at other options, but right now what we priced it at is at $621.
But are you looking at a 2% chance of getting some other ones, or
I don't know.
you have no idea?
I have no idea. There's other, until you have the security, you don't know.
When you're getting ready to circulate the petition, do you need a certain percentage of the EDUs or a certain percentage of the assessed valuation to approve?
Can I jump in on that? I thought you were doing this on town board motion, not by petition. There's two ways to form the district. So I was assuming you were doing it on motion. That's why.
Permissive referendum, yeah.
Yes. It's subject to permissive referendum.
Correct, yep.
Yes.
Okay, that's, but.
Yeah, so they don't need it.
I think that was an important issue that just passed by quickly. Could you clarify a little bit more here about the issue of petition versus town board?
Right, so
we need a little bit
the
of
process that
context
they're
about the actual approval, or do those of us sitting here, do we have any input into yay or nay?
You want to answer this? I mean, I could, but you go.
So the town board is going to make a motion to grant this sewer district, and then it's subject to permissive referendum, which means if you people, excuse me, not you people, you residents, come in and want to force a vote via permissive referendum, you can. All right, and that would be coming in and addressing the town clerk and putting in a request for a permissive referendum.
How many people would you need for that to be in effect?
I haven't done this in a while, but the last time I did it was the last vote in the gubernatorial election.
Right, I just,
So it's not a big number.
it's 5, it only takes 5% of the potential voters to.
Which is not a big number.
No, it's not a big number in this, to bring it to a vote.
And I also think there's gonna be two actions in the town board. One forming the district that's gonna be subject to referendum, this is my assumption. And then the second one is there's gonna be a bond resolution.
Yes.
That will also be subject
To a permissive
to
referendum, yes,
So
you're
there's
correct.
2 bites of the apple for the taxpayers if they wanna bring it to referendum.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay, and while we're on this, then, how does this fit in the timeline? When would this process go through in terms of petitioning for referendum?
As soon as the town board makes a motion, it's 90 days.
I thought it was 30 after
30 days.
publishing the estoppel notice.
Published, but 30 days after the estoppel notice is published, you have to come in and ask for a permissive referendum. And again, it has to be 5%, and the town clerk has to has a petition that's a 5% when signed.
Okay.
It would be available at the town clerk's office, yes.
And is there a timeline in terms of when this would come to the initial board, town board?
For a
Bringing
vote?
this to the board for the initial vote, yeah.
Whenever they are going to put it on the agenda, I believe they have to know this public. When as soon as it goes on the agenda, everyone will know on the town board agenda.
So if it's a second home, right, then you don't get a vote, do you?
You paying taxes?
Yeah, it's residents, not voters.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can't vote in the general election here, though. No,
Right, right.
That's frowned on.
This has to do with your tax.
Okay.
I got another question. For the force mains, if you have one of those on your property, what can go wrong with them?
I guess, at some point they could break, but we haven't had a situation like that recently.
If they do break?
If they do break, the town will pay to replace it. So these, on your property, you have your curb stop and a check valve at the road. So unless your pump turns on and starts pumping it, which shouldn't happen because there's an alarm panel, and if it does start to pump the sewage, it's gonna know that there's no resistance there, and the pump isn't gonna turn on. And at your street, you have a check valve, so no flow can come back. So what's gonna happen is your alarm's gonna go on at your panel and say there's an issue here. The town will come out, take a look, read your panel, and be able to download the information and figure out what's going wrong with it, and they'll be able to determine there's
You're not gonna end up with a large.
No.
And the top of these covers are lockable?
Yes, I believe.
Because there's a lot of little kids running around.
Yep, they're bolted too.
They're bolted down?
There's not any street storm sewers around, right?
No storms.
Okay.
If I heard you correctly now, all I have to do is get my checkbook out. I don't have to pick up a shovel. Is that right? You're gonna do everything?
Everything except for the electrical installation from your house panel to the alarm panel.
Okay, and if you have, a generator, are they gonna take care of that connection too?
There's a generator connection on the actual, if you have a portable generator, you can power it. You're not getting it.
How about a whole house generator? Somebody's gotta go to the panels.
Right.
That'll run.
That's your electrician.
We are only installing this control panel right here. Everything up to that is a whole.
Are you gonna do the coordination of the electrician and, in a sense, the plumber to the?
What I think the town will pay for is the inspection. We won't do the coordination, but if you have, we'll pay for the inspection of the work from your panel to the control panel.
So if, the electrical isn't done, when you come by the house, then you're gonna have to come back, because electrical's.
If your electric is done up to a point and you have a connection where you want it, we'll just put our alarm panel right where you want it, whether it's, as long as you coordinate with us in advance, in terms of.
The electrical is gonna have to be done before you can change the septic system.
Yes.
So when that grinder pump gets installed, I assume it's a straight run off your house? No bends, no.
Not necessarily, it all depends on each individual property. We've had several that have been put behind the house and had to come up and make some different turns in order to get to the street. And none of that, it's just one directional drill, so it's not like they have to re-drill or change, do different excavations.
And the other part of my question was, so, I have a relatively deep front yard. So, and that grinder pump has to be X amount of feet from my house. So regardless of the length, that's on you guys, right?
Well, we're gonna put it in a location that makes the most sense. I can't give you, without looking at your property, I can't give you a yes or no answer and feel confident. Yeah, go ahead.
Is part of this project, you're connecting the house to the grinder pump, or the residents are responsible for that?
We're making this connection from outside your house to the grinder pump.
I have a question. How many months is this gonna take? Approximately when, or what part of the year it's gonna happen? Because most of us live in a community or have summer houses that we do in the summertime. And I hate to see our backyards torn up for 5 months from May till October, which are our key months of using our property.
Right.
Some of us only use the property in the summer.
Right.
So I was wondering if you had a timeline of when this is gonna happen.
So we anticipate it's gonna take at least 14 months to complete. So, and we're not necessarily limit the contractor to what months they can and cannot work. They're going to determine, if they want to work in the winter and they feel they can be productive, we're going to allow it. But we're definitely not going to take the best months of the year, June, July, August, off the table. In terms of actual disruption to the back of your house, it's gonna be relatively minimal, and it's gonna be relatively short span. You know, these grinder pump installations might take, 2 or 3 days, and then they're gonna restore the area. So they're not gonna be in the back of your house for weeks on end. Yes.
What if damage happens to the road?
Then it'll be repaired. The contractor will be responsible to repair any damage to the road.
And how do they classify damage to the road?
It has to be
dirt road.
Right, they'll have to return it to at least pre-existing condition.
They take pictures on every water lines, whatever, they'll have somebody go through with a camera or a recording, and they record everything. And so they will restore it to whatever that recording camera has, they'll restore it to your natural.
And what we've actually done in the past is had the contractor do a drone of the road, because it protects them a little bit too. Because if you have a homeowner come out and say, well, my flowers weren't like this before, or whatever, so it behooves the contractor to take the pre-existing photos as well.
I saw on the screen that you had said there was a permanent easement attached. Now, is that on everyone's property where the grinder pump is?
Yes, because the town will need to be able to have access to come in and maintain, and permission to maintain and service the grinder pump in the lateral.
Would they do it on a pre-existing easement, or would they?
No, it would have to be a brand new easement.
Gotcha.
What, can you explain how, if Hamlin turns this down, or Kendall, is one contingent on the other, they both have to pass?
Nope. Yep, your own sewer district, Kendall is gonna move forward regardless of what Hamlin does.
And that will be, no matter what, go to, where's the connecting point?
The northwest quadrant sewer in Hamlin.
And is there room built into that for future expansion?
Yes.
Down the road if
Yes.
somebody wants to hook in, maybe, say 10 years. from
Right,
now?
but if this district doesn't go forward, I'll say that money will get used up by the Hamlin portion of the project. So that $8.6 million grant will still go forward, will just be less grinder pumps to install.
You had a question earlier about which end you're gonna start at. Aren't you gonna have to start at the northwest quadrant? If you don't have any place for it to go, you can't put it into the line.
Right, but there'll be several pump stations along the way.
And where do they pump to?
They'll often pump to the northwest quadrant. But you might have a contractor installing, a portion at the north end while, the other crew is at a different end. So there might be multiple crews out there.
I heard the northwest quadrant hasn't approved this yet.
That's inaccurate because they've already signed an intermunicipal agreement. So we have an intermunicipal agreement with Monroe County, so.
I may have misunderstood, but did you say that there's only some of the houses on Beechwood Park that are being done? The Hamlin side?
No, all but Hamlin, if you have a residence in Hamlin without a sewer, you will be getting a grinder pump.
Where is the main trunk line gonna run?
The main trunk line will run in the road. We'll try to put it as far away from, it has to be at least 10 feet away from the water main if possible. So, but we'll try to put it in a location that's gonna disrupt as little existing utilities and features as possible.
Don't you have to run that, like the water line, pretty straight?
It can go off, the pipe that we're installing is flexible. So if it has to go under a creek, it can go under a creek. If it has to go around something, it can do that as well.
It has to be 10 feet away from the water line?
Yeah, it's gotta be.
It has to be a.
There's the water line here in the road, just on the inside of the road with an easement.
Mhm.
You always got an easement down there. You're talking about another easement, I think.
Yes.
Now, is that, so here's the water line. 10 feet from the water line could be this way, towards the lake, or it could be towards the front of everybody's house. That's why I'm asking, where's the trunk go? Does it go along the front of everybody's house?
At this point, like I said, at this point, we're in a preliminary design. We haven't gone out, we haven't done survey, we haven't done any of that work. So we're gonna look at it and we're gonna put it in a location that we think is the cheapest to get done, which means going around the less objects and the straightest as well. Yes.
In the project-specific question, it says, well, what will happen with property assessment? It says there's no expected change. When sewers are in an area versus septic systems, it drives up the property values, and so like when the town comes through to, and gonna reassess the area, because now the houses are connected to sewers, it's gonna push up property values, and it's gonna push up the property taxes.
Is it? Is that something you guys can answer? Will that happen? Will we get a higher tax?
Let me just, here's what's happening in the other district. And with all the water districts we've done, the town assessors assess properties based on sales.
Yeah, well, they sell for more money when they're connected to sewers.
They don't, you're already getting taxed for being in the sewer district, so that's in it. The assessment doesn't happen the day you get sewer, all of a sudden your property's more. No, they work on how this property sells.
Yeah, but in 3 or 4 years or 5 years, when they reassess the properties, they're gonna jack them up 20
It
grand.
doesn't automatically just increase, it increases based upon sales and valuation.
Right, but to say that it doesn't have, there's no effect, that is not a truthful statement.
No, but when you sell your property, it's gonna be worth more as well.
Yeah, but a lot of these people have had the things in their family for 50 or 100 years, and.
I'm just saying the assessor doesn't just say, oh, you're in a sewer.
No, well, it doesn't jack it up the next day, but when they come through, and in 3 or 4 years, they're gonna jack it up 20 grand, so you're gonna pay the 600, and then you're gonna pay another 600 in higher property
Look at
tax.
comparables, correct.
Could we confirm once again, just to be absolutely sure on this, individual property owners do have the right to opt out?
Yes.
But it still costs.
Yeah, it costs half, right.
No, it'll cost you, if you wait to do it 3 years later, you'll pay for the whole thing.
But if
Sure,
they opt out in the initial
But
beginning.
an opting out in the initial stage is possible.
Yep, you'll still pay half the debt service, but yes.
You'll still be paying for now until death.
You'll pay 200 instead of 600.
Now until death.
I'm assuming the meeting's being recorded, right? So we can probably go grab it somewhere afterwards? Yeah, is that, okay, and then will the slide deck be available?
We can get it available.
That would be wonderful, thank you.
With the easement, let's say the water line's behind my house, because that's where it is. So I would think the easiest place, but also I think all the septic systems are behind our houses also. Somebody said something about.
When you say behind your house, you mean on the lake side or you mean on the road side?
So in Trumper, you have houses that are parallel, or not parallel, but.
Yeah, parallel to the lake.
Well, some are parallel, but some aren't. Some are on the streets going to that. So my property faces a field, but doesn't really face the lake. But right behind the house is where the water is. So would you be on the water side, or would you try to go on the other side of the house?
We're gonna be on the road side.
I'm sorry, what was that?
The road side of the house.
Always the road side?
Yes.
Not because there is an easement in front of our houses, in front of all our houses, that allow us to walk to the lake or whatever. And it wouldn't be on the easement side, it would be on the water side.
The road side.
The road side. Okay, I just want to be sure, because I don't want to lose my 2 trees.
Right.
In front of my house, which are huge, big trees. I mean, that for me would be.
Right.
Detrimental. I would just sell the house.
Understood. We also don't wanna pay a contractor to take down your trees either, so.
Some people might want to keep trees down.
I got a couple tree lights to come out.
So, we can take more questions. If you sign in on the sign-in sheet, you take email, put your email down, or you email the town. We can take more of your questions later on. If they come up, we're happy to answer them. Anything we can do to give you enough information you need to make a decision, we're more than willing to do that.
What is the email address? It's not on this.
Email the town of Hamlin, and then they'll forward everything to.
Where does the town post its notices? Is it just on the website? Is it?
We have to, legally, we have to put it in the town paper, the West Side News.
Westside News?
But we'll put it on the website also, and when we have the actual meeting, we have a meeting this Monday, it's not gonna get done this Monday. We'll have to talk to the town attorney, and we'll have to get stuff written up for this, before we vote on it and everything. We will do another mailing, all of you got a mailing, we will send out another mailing to all you. We'll put it online, we'll put it in the paper, and we will also send you out another mailing when we have our vote.
Awesome.
Is that okay?
I have a question though. Can that mailing be a little more specific? Because the mailing we got said, right, 621 for 2 years. That's not the case. But my family is thinking it's only $1,200 for this, and I've got to break that news. So can it just be a little more specific that it's over the life?
It must have been a technical error.
You wanna see it?
Estimated for the first year.
No, it must have, I believe you, it must have been a technical error.
But it doesn't say how long full.
Okay, well, she was thinking 2,000.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like, and that's why I said, $18,630. A piece would be crazy.
My aunt and my dad.
For an individual, for a sewer, I mean, it's, to me, that's.
Typical first year, typical second year.
It's not, you're right.
Say for the next 30 years.
It's not,
Yeah, and beyond.
it's not clear, we're trying to make the next one. I see what you're saying.
That's a super shock. I'm thinking, I can live with it.
Yeah, this has been a little bit clearer, but we'll make the next one better, but we will mail you out a letter. Be on the website, and then we'll mail you all out a letter.
It's just crazy.
Just, on a rough estimate, you know, I mean, it all depends on people's panels and houses and things, but roughly what's the electrical cost to run out so that you can tie in this grinder pump? You know, I mean, just
I honestly, I couldn't give you.
just a ballpark.
I have no idea.
I'm not electrical either.
You don't have a ballpark on that?
You can have one electrician charge you $1,000 and one charge you $100. I mean, I don't know.
Some people may choose to do some do.
Is there any other questions?
Yeah, well, you can get it from the road. It's kind of like what we did with the water.
Probably ought to. Say at the meeting closed. Meeting closed at 8:02. We're closing the board meeting, the public hearing on the Kendall Hamlin water line, or sewer line, at 8:02.